Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So you might notice a little bit of different setup in here today. I'm actually using the new Sony ZV-E1 camera, and it's obviously much more portable than some of the other rigs I've got. And I'm hoping that this will make things more convenient to make these quick videos instead of having to set up and break down everything back here like I'm normally doing. And I'll probably be making a video here shortly about this camera and a couple other ones that I feel like would be good options to record behind the scenes if you're interested in doing that for your own photo shoots. And today I wanted to kind of revisit some of this AI stuff, which there are tons of videos out now on all the software that's coming out, the updates to Photoshop like we'll talk about here in this video, and just everything else going on. It's enough to make your head spin. I think I'm still going to try to keep myself on the positive end of things, to where I'm going to educate myself as well as possible to try and stay on top of what's going on. So if things do come up with future clients, potential clients, then I will have, I guess, enough knowledge with these tools to use them if needed, if they're called for in these types of jobs. And I think that going forward, one of our responsibilities as professional photographers, although it's fairly dependent, I guess, on which area of photography you're in, this is going to affect some areas a lot more than others. But I feel like maintaining our relevance is going to be a part of our job description, and keeping ourselves kind of in the mix when it comes to this type of stuff. And it's like, it goes back, I would probably take it back to when retouching originally became kind of a big thing. A lot of my jobs were dependent on the fact that I could actually retouch the images, and I mean, I'm going back probably 10, 12 years, if not more, for that end of things, where I could do high-end retouching with the images that I was capturing, with obviously being the photographer myself. And so that set me apart from a lot of other photographers who would outsource their retouching. And then it kind of evolved into where the photographers would offer video services along with taking the stills and that type of thing. And so this profession, while it's never been easy, it is continually changing. I mean, you go all the way back from when things changed from film to digital. But I do feel like this AI stuff, there's some real potential here to make our lives easier. But with easier, it opens up access for more people to use these. And I think we'll see in the commercial realm, a lot of agencies will have their in-house guys schooled on this stuff, and so they're not going to have to outsource it to other people, like myself and possibly you watching this video. So it's just an ever-changing landscape. And with all that said, I just wanted to kind of jump in and talk about some of the aspects of this new generative fill that what Photoshop Beta is offering. And right now it's free in the beta. It's obviously still a beta, so there's some things that it does well, and there's some things that it needs work on. And I've heard too that once I guess it moves into Photoshop, it might be based on like a token system, to where maybe monthly you'll have so many credits that you can use this tool. And then unfortunately it's probably going to be where it's going to be pay to play from that point on. But all that is kind of still out there, along with the copyright stuff. I know Adobe is working through their own stock library, so all of this stuff that's generated should be copyright approved eventually, if you're putting it into realms where that is necessary. I want to make this video show off a couple of these aspects for y'all, and from my professional photography, or being a professional photographer, I'm just kind of using my viewpoint and knowing what most of who my audience is here. And you might not have seen this already out on YouTube, but there are plenty of tutorials. I might skip around a little bit on here. If you want to dive deeper, go check out some of the Adobe channels and some of the other ones that, it's really easy to do a search in YouTube, and you can find more details than you would possibly need about this. And then the crazy thing is that it just keeps evolving. So it's kind of like my video a couple weeks ago. Once you kind of get on top of it, something else changes and you got to get back up to speed again. And since setting up this video and then sitting down here now to record it, Photoshop Beta has actually come out with a newer version. So the generative fill type stuff, the AI type based stuff in the program has already evolved another step, and it's gotten a little bit better. So, and it's already pretty incredible with some of the stuff it can do. So enough of this blabbing on. Let's jump onto the computer. I'm just going to show you a couple of different examples of where I think it's already going to make our life easier than it was just a couple weeks ago. All right, so you can see my screen here. I'm going to show you quickly how you can access the beta for Photoshop. If you're a Creative Cloud member, go into the Creative Cloud window, go over here to Apps, and then scroll down to Beta Apps, and then you will see this here. You will have a install button right here if you've not already done that. So you want to install it, and then you can open it up and join the fun. So let me show you one application that I actually wish I'd had this a couple weeks ago. This is a photo from a recent shoot that I had, and it's obviously a horizontal format, and I wanted to create an image off of this for an Instagram story for social to kind of promote the light mods, pro light mods back here in the background. And so what I quickly do, so you can go over here to crop, and the stories are, the story aspect ratio on the Instagram stories is a 9:16, which is a pretty severe crop off of what I've got going here. And so when I make that crop, you can see I've got a lot of the background here that is not covered by the backdrop, so it doesn't look very good. And initially, let me duplicate this layer. Initially, what I would normally do is do a content aware fill, and so I would just kind of go, and this is what I had to do just I guess a week or so ago when I used this. And so I'd make this selection here. And then go down here to Content Aware Fill. And there's a new window here on the beta, and you can see it's got a lot of wacky stuff going on with that area that it filled in, and it's just really not great. You can go back in here with the healing brush and clean that up and fix that, but it's a lot of different steps. So what I want to do is clear out of this. So I'm going to cancel that. And instead of content aware fill, we're going to use this generative fill. And with the new versions, both the regular version of Photoshop that just came out and this beta, you've got this new toolbar here that will float around. And what you can do is pin this bar position, which will help things out because it moves all over the place based off of what you're doing, and sometimes it gets kind of in the way. All right, so I'm using my same selection I just did for that content aware fill that did not work, and we're going to use the generative fill, the new tool here. I'm not going to put any kind of prompts in, so then it will just take information from the existing image to fill in that area that was left open by not having a tall enough backdrop with the angle that I was shooting with my camera. So a super low angle looking up. And what it does is it gives you, so this first option is a little wacky. That's the first time I've seen that. But what you do is you get a couple of variations over here. And so like this variation right here, this one's even better. So right there, you saw how quick that was, and I didn't speed this up at all. And so right there we've got what we need to fill in the top of this image and make it very usable. Let's do another thing too, because I've got some wheels back here. And so I'm going to use the same thing to see if we can clean up these wheels. So I'm just making a selection with the lasso tool. I'm going to make another selection at the same time by hitting the shift key and using the lasso here. So this is going to create, both of these will be active. I'm going to hit generative fill, no prompt, and we will see how this does. And so right away you can see that we've got three options once again. The first option is works just perfectly fine there. So you can see exactly what, combine these. Turn those off. This is where we started after the crop. And here's with the two generative fills. What's really neat with this tool is it sticks it on, already sticks it on its own layer with a layer mask. So if you need to do any kind of adjusting after the fact, it's not a destructive layer. So you can come in here obviously and do what you need to do, or delete and start over. So that's example one. I could have used this a couple weeks ago, thought I would share that with y'all. Let's jump in to, all right, for our second example, let's take a look at that backdrop image I used in that Midjourney video, which I will put up here in case y'all missed that one. But this is where this image was completely generated in Midjourney. And what I ended up doing, and so I flipped the image here just like I had to do in that video for the composition with my player that I photographed in studio to work on this background. As you know from that video, I had trouble generating just a backdrop without a player that would work for that composite, and so I ended up having to use prompts that included players, and then I had to take out the player in that video, and I used content aware fill, and then I had to go back in and do some more clone stamping to fix these little sections of the stadium behind him. And now let's try the generative fill and just see what this does for removing our player here. And so I'm going around loosely with the lasso tool, giving plenty of room for the generative fill to do its thing. If you don't give enough room, I don't think it has enough information in it. Sometimes I think it'll make some weird borders around these players if you just did the select subject type of selection. So let's do generative fill. I'm not going to put any prompts in, and let's see how this does. All right, so right away we got 3 different variations, and it's having done this just like 2 weeks ago and had to do all that extra work to fix these parts of the stadium, and now to be able to do it basically with a button click, it's pretty amazing. I think any of these variations will do what we needed it to do, and that's just a quick. And once again, you got it on its own layer, and then I could lay in my player like I did last time, and it saves me a lot of time having to fix this up. It's pretty. This is one of the aspects that it's really doing a great job of, and that's taking objects out of images. All right, so let's go to another sample. All right, so here's yet another image I created doing the same process in Midjourney. Got a really cool stadium backdrop. This was in a different aspect ratio, and it's too vertical for what I wanted to do with that previous composite. But I really like this background. So let's see if we can't turn this vertical into more of a horizontal and have another option to use for that compositing. So I'm just going to grab the crop tool. I'm going to drag this out. Let me clear out my ratio there. I'm going to drag this over this way. And then let's grab the marquee tool. And now I'm going to have to move my bar there a little bit. All right, so I'm just going to make a selection over this side of the file, and it's recommended that you leave a little bit of an overlap for that AI to grab hold of and help generate more of the image in the direction that you're wanting it to go. And oh, it's just insane. And so here we've got 3 different options. That's pretty phenomenal. I'm liking that second one. It's keeping the lights uniform here. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Let me drag it out. Just centering my player kind of for the most part, and just kind of keeping that as what I'm using for reference. All right, we're gonna select this side here, generative fill, no prompt this time. Oh my goodness. And then so this is the first option that popped up. Another variation. I mean, this is pretty amazing. And this way it's, so we got a little bit going on with the dirt and all here, but it is pretty phenomenal. I would probably maybe take it out more on this side to keep things realistic with the you know, how a baseball diamond is structured, but just showing what is going on with that is, I mean, it's phenomenal. So, you know, even if you have a stadium background, you could use this tool to expand that out, just changing your aspect ratios. Obviously, you can go up and down, make it more vertical like I showed in that first example. And here we are going more horizontal. And this is where it's shining right now. It's really incredible. All right, so let's take a look at the image that I used to composite into that that video with the Midjourney background, and let's just see if Photoshop can come up with a background with this player without us having to generate something in Midjourney. So I'm going to select my subject. I'm going to invert that selection, and then let's hit Generative Fill. I'm going to put a prompt in, and we're just going to put baseball stadium at night with lights. And let's see what this does. And this is where the kind of the limitations currently are with Photoshop and the generative fill. It's trying its best to create something, and this kind of reminds me of, if you look at some Midjourney outputs from about a year ago, and this is kind of some of the stuff that you would get. So right now, this is really not usable for something like this for me. But like I said, probably a year from now, and I even stated in that video, I think that it'll be interesting to see where we're going to be when it comes to just creating stuff from nothing using the AI here right in Photoshop and not having to generate from somewhere else and then bring it back in. But currently right now, I mean, we're creating pixels from nothing, and using Midjourney is a great choice for this, and then adjusting it in Photoshop further using this generative fill is it's just game changing. It's insane. All right, so after that example, let's take a look at where this generative fill is shining right now, in my opinion. And it's more so working in landscapes, I think, on the natural environments than cityscapes and creating like buildings and stadiums and stuff like that out of nothing. But when you move to landscapes, expanding your images like we did in that one from Midjourney with the stadium, it did a fantastic job. And it does the same thing with these types of landscape images. So this is just a easy to create background in Midjourney right now. And you can see my prompt up here, a flat desert landscape with mountains. And that's what it cranked out here. And so now let's use the generative AI in Photoshop to create some additions to maybe enhance this landscape and see what we can come up with. So let's do something fun, like maybe add an old truck in here. So I've just made a quick circle right here. I'm going to put a old red pickup truck. And let's see what it does. So these can be hit or miss, and kind of similar to that stadium backdrop I tried to do on that baseball player image. The good thing is you get 3 options with each one of these generations. This already looks pretty cool. This is the first one, second one, and the third one. The wheel's doing something funny there. Let's stick with this one. Let's see what we can do with this truck, just kind of out here in the middle of nowhere. Let's create. So another cool thing is creating water with reflections and using those to kind of enhance your landscape. So let's bring in another selection down here in the bottom corner that should probably pick up this pickup truck. And let's generate a slow moving river. Let's try that. I mean, this is really crazy. All right, so it just dropped in this. You gotta, this is just the first variation. Here's the second variation, a little more subtle. And the third, this first one picks up the truck, gives us that reflection. You can tell, I mean, there's like stuff in the water here that makes it so realistic. It's picking up the clouds. I mean, pretty insane. And I will say, like right now, the resolution on these generative fill layers or wherever you kind of generate these into your images, I think it's like 1021 on the long side. So if you're looking to do a big fill on a high-res image, you're going to want to do it in smaller blocks at the moment. I'm guessing that in the future, the resolution of that is just going to go up, and soon it's going to be like going from HD video to 8K and take care of all that for us. Let's do one more little thing, just see how this works. I'm going to put some, try to put some birds back here in the sky. So I'm going to put, let's put a flock of birds in flight. Now I had some wacky results with this, like in the previous generation of the Photoshop beta. So we'll see what this does. Sometimes they were super big, and I mean that's variation number one. Here's number two. Say this is kind of what I was getting in the first version, but this first variation here, that looks, when you kind of zoom out to the image as a whole, it's pretty neat. And and this is the thing with this is you can just go down a complete wormhole and playing with this stuff. You can just create new images out of nothing. Let's generate, let's put a house in here. Let's do an old farmhouse. And let's see what this does. I'm going to keep the bar on this one so y'all can kind of see how long it takes to generate these types of items for your backdrops. That one's there's some wacky stuff going on there. I kind of like this end of it. There's one right there. That one kind of is a cross between a barn and a house. I think let's keep that one. But you can see what it's doing too is it's matching the lighting from this scene. And so it perfectly drops them in. And that's, I'll show you where I started. And here we go. That's the beginning of where we were. Let me zoom this thing in a little. That's where we started, and how many layers? I guess that was 4 generative fills. We created a whole different scene in this landscape. So you can see how much fun this is, and unfortunately I think it's probably going to start costing money to do this type of stuff when this comes out of beta. But it's a super powerful tool. There's some limitations to it right now. You can download the beta, jump in, have some fun, see what you can create. I think that kind of going back to that Midjourney video we're bringing in the studio, creating backdrops, this only takes it to the next level to where you can customize those backdrops that you might get out of a software like Midjourney to really dial them into what you need to possibly create some composite images using some subjects that you photograph in your studio. So the possibilities are endless. I think commercially this is very viable. If you're going to do custom work for some agencies for ad campaigns, stuff like that. I mean, obviously the copyright issues are still kind of, I think, up in the air, trying to figure out all that. But I think it's important to know about these tools, and so that's why I'm making this video to share with y'all. So if you feel like this video is worthy, please hit that thumbs up button. If you want to see more content just like this and actually using a camera, hit that subscribe down there along with the bell so YouTube will let you know when I'm on here again. Comments, questions about any of this type of stuff, please feel free to leave those down below. You can also find me on social media at QuantsPhoto on Instagram and Twitter. Y'all stay safe. Try to stay on top of this AI type stuff, and I will see y'all again in the next one.